Broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, and welcome back to a new episode of Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And after an extraordinary week where we were joining the European Super League, we were then removed from the European Super League. We are now back to normal football, as normal as it can be, with so much going off the pitch. It was a week where football on the actual pitch took a step aside, but I'm here after an Arsenal defeat, one against Everton at home, one that came after a very good protest against Stan Kroenke and KSC as a whole. On Friday night there was a massive protest, so Arsenal fans have made their voices heard. So before I get into the Everton review and the match and what happened in that game, we obviously have to talk about what's happened this week. So obviously when I made the podcast on Tuesday, I think it was, Arsenal were still in the Super League. They were still intending to join it, but things just changed so quickly afterwards. Manchester City were the first club who declared their distance from the Super League, and then all the other clubs sort of skittled afterwards. I think Chelsea were first, and then Spurs, Man United, Liverpool and Arsenal were all afterwards. And it was a very, obviously I was happy, but if anything, I know that this is not stopping it forever. I think this is something that will carry on for a long time and will be in the background looming for Arsenal and for a lot of clubs and for football in general, really, that Arsenal are going to be looking at ways to get into this Super League because they haven't been good enough in the Premier League or in the Europa League or in Europe to be up there getting the best money. We are a self-sustaining club. Our owner doesn't put a pound into the club, and this money is important and it's important for them, but when you take away sporting merit, all because of money for the owners, not because they want to spend money at Arsenal, but so they can make more money, so they can basically have so much money that they can leave Arsenal alone and truly show their true colours and not care about it. Because ultimately, I think that's what the owners are. They don't care about Arsenal. I think sometimes people think that they do, and I think they've completely shown their true colours now. This is what they are. They're never going to change, and I think a lot of fans have had enough. I think fans always thought that we would be mediocre under KSC, but I think now they've shown their true colours, and I think a lot of fans want them out. I think fans are still going to protest against the owners in home games, maybe not on Thursday against Villarreal in Europa League, but still they are going to protest these owners, and I think that's completely right because these owners deserve all the protests that they can get, and they shouldn't be allowed to get out of jail really because the European Super League has temporarily failed. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. I think that would be unfair on the fans who had been putting hard-earned money into it. It would be unfair to let them get away with it again because they've done things in the past like taking dividends out of the club to help build their stadium that have left a bad taste in people's mouths, but they've ultimately got away with it. I don't think they could get away with it now. I think this has damaged our belief in them, and I think it's damaged their relationship, and I think it's not going to be repaired, not at all. I think this is how it's going to be now, and I think Arsenal should hope that these owners can be removed because I don't think they're good enough, and I don't think they are trusted enough by the fans. Now, the next day after Arsenal removed themselves from the Super League, now firstly, the statement that came out, they apologised. Not a lot of owners did, and I see a lot of people giving credit, but ultimately it was a real copy and paste job, and the end of the email was signed off the Arsenal board. There's no Arsenal board. We know who this statement was from. It was from Stan, Josh, all them. But to do it as the Arsenal board to make it look like some united front, nah. because obviously the players hadn't been informed about going into Super League. Management hadn't been informed. The only people that had known about the Super League were Stan and Josh. So to say that it's a united front is just complete lies, and that's what they are, really. But the next day, there was a fans forum meeting. It originally got cancelled because of this Super League stuff, but then it got redone and Josh was confirmed to be joining. There were a lot of spicy quotes. A lot of people were very unhappy on the call. A lot of people were asking for KSC to leave, which is, again, completely understandable. The Cronkies don't look like they're going to leave. They look like they're fully committed at repairing the relationship, but I think it's beyond repair, personally. I think the only way that you can repair it is, unfortunately, on the pitch, and even then it would require them to make smart decisions and require them to bring in a lot of good players. And now, obviously, you want your club to have the best players. You want to be able to buy the best players. And when your owners don't put in any money, it's quite difficult. But also, when your owners don't hire people that are smart, that's also difficult as well. So it's just a very, very difficult instance for us, and they're going to have to do a lot to repair it, and I don't think they're going to be able to. So a lot of fans were off after them, and rightly so. And then obviously Friday happened and the protest happened, and it was wonderful. People were respectful, apart from there was one bit where people were burning the US flag, and I think that's out of order. That's just a mockery against American people. Yes, that our owners are American, but it's not all Americans that are like this. It's not the whole of America that has made Arsenal join the Super League or be bad. It is just these owners. So that took it a step far. But apart from that, the protest was very good. It was nice seeing fans chant again. It's been ages since you've heard that, really. It's been a long time since you've heard fans be united about something, especially Arsenal fans. Arsenal fans are always infighting. There's always discussions about managers, about players. There's always infighting. I mean, even after the Everton game on Friday, there was infighting about Arteta and Leno and such, and we'll get into that more later on. It was good to see them united against one cause, and that's against the Cronkies, and I was really proud of the fans that they put it across. The chants were so big that you could actually hear them at the start of the game from outside the ground, which was incredible, really, when you think of how many fans were there. I think about 5,000 fans were there, which is astonishing when you think about it. And obviously, it was such a shame that none of them were allowed into the stadium to go support the team, and frankly, they needed it on the night. But honestly, I hope these protests continue, because the only way that we're going to even have a chance to get them out is to continue this momentum. If you get quieter, they will think that they've got away with it. They will think it's blown over. We can't allow it to blow over. Keep with the hashtags on Twitter. Keep with the protests. Make sure that they know that they can't do this to our club and that we don't want them anymore. And that's the important thing. If you keep doing this, it'll be great. I hope when 10,000 fans or so are allowed back in the stadium for the Brighton game at the end of the season, I hope fans chant loudly on that day against Stan Kroenke. But it won't be fans that don't care as much. It will be proper, passionate Arsenal fans, because these are fans that are season ticket holders, that are gold members, silver members, that will be in the stadium against Stan Kroenke. And I hope they chant it really loud so that the club hears it and the players hear it. But enough about the protests. I've talked long enough about it. I'm happy the Super League's over. Obviously, the Champions League reforms came out. I still don't think they're a good idea either. Something in football needs to change, but the proposals that have been presented are not really good enough for the Super League and for the Champions League. So, still a long way to go, really, but hopefully we can do it. Right, so unfortunately I have to talk about the Everton game now, so that's going to be really annoying. So let's start where we talk about the team lineup. So Leno started in goal. He came back in for Matt Ryan. Right back, Callum Chambers came back in. I thought Bellerin was quite poor against Fulham, so it was good to see Chambers come back in. Rob Holding and Pablo Mari started, so Gabriel was benched after the mistake against Fulham where he gave away the penalty. Granit Xhaka continued at left back. Partey came back in for El Neni and Ceballos kept his place. And then the front four, so Bukayo Saka on the right, Smith Rowe at 10, Pepe on the left, and Eddie Nketiah was the man chosen because there was no Aubameyang, there was no Lacazette. Luckily, there was Martin Odegaard on the bench, which was nice to see. That's a boost for our attacking options, at least. That was our team. And obviously, Eddie Nketiah had a battle against Martinelli, really. I think Eddie is quite underrated by fans. I think Arsenal fans are a bit against Eddie because of Balogun, because when Eddie came into the team last year, ironically, against Everton, he was a player that was applauded because he was better than Lacazette. He was new. He wasn't Lacazette and he was being featured more. I always think Eddie's a good striker. Maybe he's not the level that we want a striker, but I always thought he was quite good. And I mean, in this game, you always want a striker to have shots. And I mean, he had 2 shots, but they were both blocked. Apart from that, he's not really into the game in terms of picking up the ball. He's not a hold-up player. I think his hold-up play and I think linking up with other players was actually a bit better than what I've seen from Eddie. So maybe that part of his game is developing. But he's basically sort of like an Aubameyang striker, if not having that electric pace. I think his movement in the final third is fantastic. And I think if you have players who can feed him the ball and get him chances, he will score because he's quite a clinical finisher. So I think a lot of fans are against him and a lot of fans wanted to see Martinelli. But when Martinelli did come on, I think apart from one chance, as a striker, he wasn't really connecting with anyone. So I understood the Eddie selection, but I saw also that other people wanted Martinelli to play. So going through my notes here, we started the game good, if not we were sort of working ourselves in the game. Everton were not really into it at the start. I think we had a couple of little half chances, but then Everton started to get into the game. They were pushing up quite high, and I put that here, they were pressing quite high, which is quite smart for them because obviously while we're playing out from the back, they're going to have to press up high. They were just trying to get everything to Calvert-Lewin, who's returning on the night. Calvert-Lewin's an incredible striker in terms of in the air, no one beats him. Rob Holding had a really tough night against him. He just wasn't winning anything in the air. Calvert-Lewin was basically winning everything. He's an absolute great striker. I think in the first 15 minutes he had a chance, a great headed chance, just going wide. So that was pretty unfortunate for him. But I think he faded as the game went on because obviously he is just coming back from injury. But I think in general, I think he was just being fantastic and he's just such a handful in the air. And even if he's not scoring or getting an assist, I think he's been pretty good this season. But then we got our first real chance. Saka had a really good chance on the 17th minute mark. It was a knockdown header and he volleyed straight at Pickford, really. It was a really good header. I think it was from Chambers. So, because Chambers put in a cross and Ceballos and Nketiah went in for the header. This was actually a feature of the game, actually, that Ceballos and Nketiah was sort of getting in each other's way. I think there was a chance where later on in the game where they were going into the ball and both of them sort of got confused and hit it against each other and then it went back to an Everton player. So they were sort of getting in each other's way, I think, a lot during this game. But the cross came back in and Chambers headed it down for Saka, who had a really good volley, but it was straight at Pickford. And I've put in my notes here that Thomas Partey was playing well. And I saw a lot of debate about Partey on the night, that he wasn't really playing well and that his passing was a bit wayward. Now, he set up a really good Saka shot later on in the half. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he did set it up. He did get booked very early, but which I thought wasn't really a booking. But in terms of winning the ball back, I thought he was great. In terms of his passing, he always tries an ambitious pass, and I think we have a lot of too many safe players. And I think just because you're expecting these players to be a bit safe with the ball, that when you see someone who's a bit more adventurous with the ball, then you get a bit worried that they're not keeping the game ticking. But I relish that someone like Partey passes forward and is able to really break up the play with some of his progressive passing. I think his shooting is bad. He should stop shooting. I just think he does try too hard with the shots. But in terms of him passing, I think he's been fantastic. So, like, I don't know why people were so against him in this game. I thought he was pretty decent, if not unspectacular. But I thought he was the only one that was really setting us up and linking that attack with the midfield. Again, I know Smith Rowe does that as well, and he was okay, but I think he was getting marshalled out by Alan very well in the game. But we were getting to the end of the first half, and Everton ended it very well. Richarlison had a really good chance, but Leno saved it. I think it parried out to Calvert-Lewin, who was quite close to getting it. I think he ran too far. So it was a really good chance. And then Sigurdsson had a free kick, which he hit the bar from. I mean, Sigurdsson's an exceptional free kick taker. So when he gets a chance, you know that he's going to be dangerous from a free kick. So it was a good effort from him, but we ended half well. And we came out in the second half. Sigurdsson had a huge chance right after the break with Holding producing a great block. He just went wide. But then we started to get in the game much more. And we had been given a penalty. Well, what we thought was a penalty. So we have a free kick. It comes back out to Ceballos. Ceballos gets kicked by Richarlison and it's given by John Moss. Now, I don't think it was a penalty. I think it was very soft. He barely kicked him. He does kick him, but I don't think all contact should be a penalty. It was quite a soft penalty. But then in the build-up, it was revealed that Pepe was offside. And for the second time this week, and obviously everything has been overshadowed by the Super League, owners, greed in football, but VAR has absolutely skipped and absolutely been awful all season, and this has just been another thing. I don't think it's VAR itself. I think it's the rule of offside, and I don't think there's any advantage to the attacker now. VAR was supposed to be this clear and obvious error thing, whereas by the naked eye, I can't tell if Pepe is offside in the build-up towards the Ceballos penalty given. He was given offside, no penalty given, and it was just ridiculous. I think there has to be some leeway in terms of giving it to the officials, because if no official is going to give that offside, they might give it offside. But if no official is giving that offside, why are VAR looking to give it offside? It's just micromanaging to the very small detail. But obviously I'm going to say that. But if Everton had a decision like that, I would say the same thing. I think VAR are just... And I was someone who wanted VAR, and I thought how it was implemented in the World Cup, for example, in 2018, I thought it was actually implemented quite well. But in terms of how it's been implemented in the Premier League, it's been ridiculous. So I think VAR needs to be taken back a bit. It's just ridiculous, I think. I always think of one of the worst VAR decisions was the Socrates goal against Crystal Palace last year. So the game where Xhaka told the fans to F off, and when he got subbed. So it was under Emery, and Socrates scored a pretty legitimate goal, but Chambers was ruled to foul the Crystal Palace players in the build-up, which was an absolute nonsense. So there needs to be some rule changes in football in terms of incorporating VAR, because I think the rules now are not set up to actually use VAR correctly. So that was disappointing that it wasn't given. And then Holgate nearly scored an own goal. Pepe produced a really good cross in terms of, and no one was on the penalty spot, which you would expect Eddie Nketiah, the poacher he is, to be there, and obviously coming off the back of a really poacher's goal against Fulham. And Smith Rowe found him with a great crossfield ball. We had another free kick, and Chambers had a chance on the volley hitting the ground, but it went wide, which was unlucky. We improved since the penalty decision didn't go our way. We were pushing for a goal. not as much as the last 10 minutes against Fulham, but we pushed for the goal. And then we concede a goal ourselves. And my God, it was bad. So Richarlison is going down the left. Xhaka dives in. I have no idea why Xhaka goes in. Now, obviously, the mistake is not all on him and the howler is not all on Xhaka. But I still think if Xhaka heads backwards and doesn't try to engage with Richarlison, the goal doesn't happen, because he dives in on Richarlison. It basically means that he's playing catch up. He doesn't catch up with him. So I blame Xhaka partly because he was diving in. I know people will not be against that, because I think they will think that I'm having a go at Xhaka because I don't like him as a player. But no, listen, like, I would be angry at any player going in there if it was Kolasinac, Tierney. He just didn't need to do that, and it was a bit silly from him. And I don't find him a smart, intelligent footballer. I think he's got really good passing ranges, but he just doesn't make good decisions on the pitch. His decision making has a lot to be desired. But anyway, Richarlison goes down the line. Calvert-Lewin's in the centre, and you think he's going to cross it to Calvert-Lewin. He crosses it, and it goes basically to Leno. And Leno lets it go under his legs. He basically fumbles it into the goal. What an absolute howler from him. And it was a game that was going to be settled on the moment that wasn't going to be any quality. And it was really bad from Leno. Let's get this right. Leno has had a bad season by his standards. He was fantastic last season. He's had good moments. I think in the Manchester United game where we won at Old Trafford, I thought he was very good. I think he's had other moments as well this season where he's been good, but he hasn't been up to his top standard. He's had bad moments. I think the Olympiacos game where, or was it Benfica? One of the Europa League games, they all mesh into one at this point. One of the Europa League games where he sent Tobias down the river. He should have passed it to Luiz on that night. His keeping just hasn't really been exceptional. I think he had a really good moment against Chelsea where he saved a penalty, but apart from that, he's had a really poor season by his standards. I mean, to be honest, most of the players in this team have. And now, I guess, question marks are asked about him and if he should play on Thursday. And I think it's a difficult question, because I think I was asked this question a few weeks ago by Titanori, and I think Ryan hasn't been spectacular in terms of when he's played. I know he's only played 2 games, so it's a really small sample size. But I guess if a player has been bad, you've got to drop him. I know Leno is our number 1, but he has been poor. And I've seen reports this week that Wojciech Szczesny is up for sale for Juventus. I mean, keeper is not the biggest of our worries, but Leno is starting to worry me in terms of his dip is now becoming a concern. It's not just like a 1-2 game thing. It's been affected him now quite a while. So there will be a question if Matt Ryan should come in on Thursday against Villarreal, the huge game. And if Leno does something like that, I mean, what are we going to do? But I still have trust in Leno at this present moment of time, but is waning by each week. So we conceded that goal, and then after that, we were pretty bad. I think we had one big chance between now and the end of the game, and that was the Martinelli shot, which was well saved from Pickford. Partey played an incredible pass to him through the lines, and it was really good control from Martinelli. Good shot, but Pickford has a really good save. And full time, it's 1-0 to Everton. The first time they've beaten us at home since 96, I think it was. They've done a double against us. We deserve nothing, really. I know we created more XG, but it was 0.8 to 0.6. It's not, like, incredible. I know we scored and conceded an own goal, so, you know, it was a bad day, and it ends a really bad week for Arsenal. I mean, how can you say it was anything apart from a horrible week for Arsenal off and on the pitch? I mean, we should have beaten Fulham. We absolutely battered them on the day. We deserve more than a 1-1 draw, and then this game we were pretty poor. So It's not really good preparation for the absolutely crucial game on Thursday. And you have to wonder now if this European Super League stuff has affected the players, and now they are worried about Thursday and now worried about how they'll do in the Europa League. And if that's the case, if we go out against Villarreal, against Unai Emery's Villarreal, you'll have to wonder how much that European Super League thing has messed us up. And you can blame Arteta all you like, and honestly, at this point, I don't care, because we are where we are. I can say that we've been better since a certain point of time, since Christmas, but ultimately, fans don't believe it, and they will look at the whole season as a whole. And we started the season so badly that we would practically have to be perfect between December to now, and we haven't been. So there would be more leeway if we started the season better and were more consistent. But I guess that's the one word that I wouldn't describe this team. It's consistent. We are inconsistent. That's just the makeup of a mid-table team. And I worry about us now. I think we're going to be mid-table for a long, long time. Welcome to mid-table obscurity, Arsenal fans. I mean, it seems very unlikely we'll be in Europe next year. I know we're still in the Europa League. I hope we win it. I really do. But that seems unlikely, because the two teams will probably have to be is Manchester United and Villarreal. And I think both teams are better than us. I think Villarreal are about par, but Manchester United are definitely better than us. So it will be an absolute tall ask, especially in Europe, where Arsenal are not, they don't have a good record in Europe. So I wouldn't expect much from that competition. So we're probably not going to be in Europe next year, which means the summer is going to be difficult to bring in the players that Arteta wants or needs. I have no doubt that Arteta will be manager next season. I think people talking about Arteta being sacked, you're completely justified in talking about him being sacked, but ultimately he's not going to be sacked. So you just got to hope that we get the right investment and he gets it right next season. And obviously with this Super League stuff that's happened and it not happening now, you could easily see a world where KSC say, well, fine, like, what's the point of helping you get any players? I'm not going to put any investment into the club. I mean, they don't put any investment anyway, but putting any sort of support for the manager, for Edu, to get these players that Arteta wants and that Arteta needs. And ultimately, Arsenal are not in a good position in the summer. I think some academy players are going to help us in terms of getting us money. So I think Maitland-Niles will be sold. I think Willock will be sold. Willock's obviously done very well at Newcastle, but he's not starting at Newcastle. So I know he's scored a lot of goals and we lack goals in midfield, but I think there comes a point where a player's stock is so high that you probably just have to sell. And if he does become a great player elsewhere, fine, fair enough. Put a buyback clause into his contract when he goes to Newcastle, or put a sell-on fee. Just make sure that you get the money that you should. I think Nelson will go. I don't think he'll get much money. I think Eddie Nketiah will go. At least he's been appearing recently, so he will get us some money going forward. These players can generate funds. Bellerin will go probably. These are players that are not in the current squad and not are being used, so they could probably get us a good. I think Willock will get us 20 million. Hopefully Maitland-Niles gets us about 20 million. Bellerin, 25 maybe, just because he's got a bit more experience than the other two. Nelson, 10. Nketiah, hopefully 20 as well. So I know there's English premiums on some of those players, but and homegrown factors in terms of Bellerin and all the other players as well. But if you could get a good 60 to 70 million from sales, then it would be a decent summer window to get some players in, as long as they're smart players. No more free transfers, please. Arsenal don't need that stress, another Willian at the club. It is going to be a big summer, and I just hope that Arteta and the club get the players they want and players that will improve us, because the quality is just bad. I mean, I asked a question on Reddit, I think, how many of our players are top 4 in their position in the Premier League. And I think I can name one, definitely, which is Tierney. I think he's the top 4 left-backs in the league. Apart from that, you say Partey maybe, if you're comparing the CMs. But, I mean, he's been on and off this season, so you wouldn't say this season. Odegaard, you could potentially say, but apart from that, not really. I know Saka's been exceptional, but I think there are other wingers that are potentially above him. But yeah, so the squad needs quality, and hopefully we can get some quality in the summer, especially attacking quality. So it is going to be a really important summer, but it also is going to be a very important week, because Arsenal obviously go up against Villarreal in the Europa League. They're in Spain first. I'm nervous. I wasn't really nervous for Sparta Prague, the first leg. I was more nervous for the second leg, obviously, because of what happened in the first leg. But this Villarreal game, I'm nervous. I think it's because it's become a bit more real that we have a chance here to win the Europa League, even if I don't think it's realistic. When you're in a semi-final of any competition, you have a chance if you perform well. I just hope that these players turn up on the day Arteta gets it right. It's not a fact that these players are just playing badly in Premier League because there's nothing really to fight for. They're just winding out the season. Most of our games now, between now and the end of the season, mean very little. So what's the point? I think the only big game we have is Chelsea away, and ultimately Chelsea are going to be up for it because they're going for top 4. But I just hope we turn up against Villarreal. Unai Emery will have points to prove as well. He'll set up his team to go out and win the game. But we have to get a couple of away goals to really, hopefully, get us into a good position. I'm nervous, I really am. But I just hope Arsenal produce the goods and get us through to European final. But thank you for listening. I didn't ask any questions or get any questions this week for the podcast. They'll return next week. So I thought it was going to be a bit of a long one because I was talking about everything that's happened this week, as well as the Europa League coming forward, as well as the game against Everton. So it was a bit of a longer one this week. So apologies for that, but I hope you enjoyed. Please like and share it wherever you can. Please subscribe on YouTube. Hopefully there'll be more content coming out on YouTube soon, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss much more things about Arsenal. I'm planning to do much more things in the summer over the break, so more podcasts, but also more just video content with me as well. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, I'll leave you guys. Hopefully we can get a great result on Thursday. Hopefully we can start the first leg against Villarreal, against Unai Emery's team really well. But until then, come on you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and De is right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh!